that Inspector General investigators who looked into this originally suspected that Dr. Houlihan and nurse practitioner Deborah Frasher, quote, appeared to be impaired when they got interviewed all the way back in 2012, but no action were taken. Dr. Houlihan was fired back in November after being on administrative leave for months and months. The nurse practitioner, Frasher, resigned back in February. Now, Dr. Houlihan's attorney, Frank Doherty, disputes the report's findings. He said the claims that Houlihan was impaired were, quote, nonsense. And the report also singled out VA Inspector General's office themselves for, quote, failure to identify and prevent the tragedies, including not publicly releasing findings from the probe that could have saved lives and improved operations. And of course, Marvin Simikowski, the Marine's father, said, Jason probably would have been alive today if things would have been done differently. He said that veterans need to send a message that too much prescription drugs is not the answer to the problems that these veterans are facing. Senator Ron Johnson out of Wisconsin, the chairman of the committee that investigated this matter, said that, quote, people have been held accountable in this case, but more needs to be done to give the VA vital disciplinary tools. He said it's about holding the bad actors accountable and transparency. Now, this should be one of those cases and one of those hearings that just dramatically and drastically changes everything. And again, we've been talking about this for months and months and months, and just now is the mainstream media talking about all the details that went into this. It's shameful to me. And again, I go back to Bob McDonald's piss poor comments about the wait times being compared to Disneyland. It's that's not accountability. That's not owning the issues. That's passing the buck. That's that's lying to the American people, and it's lying to the warfighters out there who put their lives on the line, who sacrificed everything, and they're failing to honor that promise. They're failing to honor that commitment. And folks, if you haven't seen it, my brother Tom there posted up one of the graphics he did. It's called McDonald Land, and if you haven't seen it, you need to. It's just absolutely powerful and incredible. And Tom, thank you so much for that image. Amazing, really, truly amazing stuff. This issue is not going away. It's not going away, and we need more folks out there to really hit on this and to really force the issue. That's what it's about. Again, we can't sit back anymore and wait. Sitting on our hands and waiting gets us nowhere. And that's not who we are anyway. We are, the ones who lead the assault. We are the defenders of freedom. And it's time that we stand and defend ourselves and defend each other, don't you think? I mean, I can't see any other way to look at this issue. And, one of the folks who's done a major job and, in bringing this stuff to point is Donald Trump. And we're going to get to what Trump had to say on this here in just a moment. Tom says here on the chat thread, there are a lot of great people who work at the VA. However, no matter how much money they try and throw at it, until they break up the AFGE, the union, things will never change. They stonewall manpower surveys, and they definitely were involved in the breakdown with the Veterans Choice Program. Tom, I could not possibly agree more. The union is at the belly of the beast of this whole thing, and that's the real reason, the driving force behind this, the fact that we can't get to the bottom of this stuff. It's so poignant and so powerful, and yet at every single turn, particularly Democrats, including President Obama, have kowtowed to the unions, to the special interest of these powerful unions, to say, hey, this is what we got to do, and they even going as far as to threaten to veto certain measures that would give the VA staff the ability to hire and fire a lot more efficiently. The president is threatened time and time again to veto that or anything like it because those government workers need their protection. And that makes me absolutely sick to my stomach every freaking time I hear it. Check out the article I just posted there from Fox News. Of course, Republican presidential candidate and presumptive nominee Donald Trump spoke out at Rolling Thunder over the weekend, and he took the time to mention the problems at VAs, and he makes an incredible point that so many of us have made over and over again. Speaking to thousands of bikers and attendees of Rolling Thunder, Mr. Trump said, thousands of people are dying waiting in line to see a doctor. That is not going to happen anymore. He said, we are with you 100%. One of the things that he hit on, one of the things that he really hit on was the fact that he believes that illegal immigrants get better care here in the U.S. than our own veterans. And is there any doubt to that statement? I don't doubt it at all. I think he's 100% correct. It's very sad. It really truly is sad. He repeated this comparison of the treatment of immigrants and veterans, saying that Congress and many states have written an assortment of laws designed to restrict government services to people living in the country illegally. Now, those are ideas, those are things they're working on, but they still haven't come to fruition. It's ridiculous. And of course, Trump also lashed out at John McCain, Trump came under fire. You may remember a while back when Trump had made a comment about about John McCain, saying that he only liked to be around people who weren't captured in wars. Of course, John McCain was famously held captive during Vietnam and everything. Now Trump kind of walked back that comment. It was kind of taken sort of out of context and was poorly worded, but rightfully so. And I'm proud that he didn't go as far as to apologize to John McCain over that, because McCain is one of these guys that he's a warfighter, and he's been there, and he's done it, he's gone through a lot of this stuff, and instead of championing on our fight time and time again, he's turned his back on the American people, and it's so absolutely disgusting to me. It is just so disgusting to me. There was thousands and thousands of people there at this Rolling Thunder meet. About 5,000 people attended the actual event itself. There are reports out there as many of 500,000 people trying to get in, but they wouldn't allow that number, that size of a crowd to attend this sort of event. So, what do you guys think of this comparison? Do you think John McCain is one of the folks to blame for the issues we face? Obviously there's no one person that we can point to and say, "Yep, this is the guy that sold us down the river. This is the guy that screwed everything up." The politicians, you throw a rock, you're going to hit 5 of them that have ignored veteran issues, at least. But John McCain's history should have been, first and foremost in his mind, you would think. And, and a lot of warfighters have spoken out about that. John McCain's own campaign, his spokeswoman, Rachel Dean, put a statement out in an email saying that Senator McCain has made veterans issues, specifically fixing the broken VA healthcare system, one of his top priorities. However, Senator McCain is the first to argue there is still work to be done. The VA system is painfully bureaucratic, slow to change, and to react. That was their statement. But then you look at that warfighters that they talked to. You have Mike Sakina, who's a 72-year-old veteran who attended this event at Rolling Thunder there. And, Mr. Sakina served in Vietnam during his time in the Navy, and he said, McCain was a prisoner of war, but I don't know. I think he's deserted the veterans. I really do. All of them have turned their back on veterans. I wish I could say I disagreed with that, but man, it's true. And going back to this issue of the unions, folks, it's blatantly obvious to me. It's in your face, blatantly obvious that we will never gain the ground we need to and make up for the losses that we need to until something is done about the government union. Plain and simple, they are just as big a part of the problem as the inadequate and inept VA leadership themselves. Sorry if you don't like that, but I gotta say it's 100% in your face and cut and dried as far as I'm concerned. Let me see here. We're going to keep moving here and sticking with the realm of warfighter issues. We have some really sad reports coming out from Syria and Iraq. Have you guys seen this? I'm surprised this isn't blasted out everywhere. But I guess that is. I guess I really shouldn't be surprised, because this is how how the mainstream media sort of covers everything. But check this out. I just posted it there in the thread. Pentagon has reported that 2 American service members were wounded over the weekend in separate incidents in Iraq and in Syria, though a Pentagon spokesman says that they were not hurt in direct combat. The 2 service members were working behind the forward line of troops, advising indigenous fighters who are battling Daesh, both in Iraq and Syria. They were wounded by either enemy rocket or mortar fire. And that's according to Navy Captain Jeff Davis, who is a Pentagon spokesman. And give me 1 second here, folks. There we go. My internet wasn't cooperating. And he declined to give the extent of their injuries or their branch of service, saying that it could give our enemy, a free battle damage assessment. Now, speaking at Fort Huachuca, Secretary of Defense Ash Carter said, yes, of course, the injuries in Iraq and Syria were combat injuries. So you have the Secretary of Defense saying something entirely different from what the actual Pentagon spokesman had to say. So I think they're having a little trouble with their message packaging. And this is coming off the heels of Friday, when President Barack Obama told the Stars and Stripes that the 3 deaths so far in Iraq since U.S. troops returned there to help fight Daesh were combat deaths. And he repeated that Sunday while honoring the men during Memorial Day ceremonies. So far, we have lost we've had 14 American troops wounded in support of Operation Inherent Resolve since 2014. So 14 wounded, 3 American warfighters have been killed in support of this. Give me 1 second here. I'm struggling with my internet today. But the president said that they will likely face combat situations as we go through these these training missions and these special operations missions. It's and I have a big problem with this because again, we have this debate, this running debate on what has to come of everything and where all this comes together. Is this combat? Is this not combat? And as so many of us have felt, time and time again, it's we're not really doing the full extent and the full might of the military as far as our response to Daesh goes. And this whole train and advise thing, I mean, that's great. They should be standing up for themselves. They should be taking a stand. But this is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. If we're going to put American lives in jeopardy, and that's clearly